Please video like and subscribe this channel. The first thing Elias Ward noticed about the alien matriarch was not her size, or her shimmering violet skin, or even the towering, spined crest that rose from her skull like a living crown. It was her eyes. They were ancient. Not old, exactly, but deep in a way that suggested she had lived 1,000 lives and remembered every single one. Those eyes were fixed on him as he stood in the center of the Grand Convergence Hall, surrounded by 1,000 alien dignitaries and every camera the Galactic Alliance could aim in his direction. He was being married. Against his will. To an alien queen. Elias had once been a simple cargo pilot, hauling medical supplies between human colonies on the edge of explored space. But when a fragile peace treaty between humanity and the Zalthera Collective began to unravel, the Alliance had come up with what it called a symbolic binding. In plain language, that meant one human would be forced to marry one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy to prevent a war. That human was Elias. And that powerful being was Matriarch Threxel of the Zalthera. The Zalthera were not like any species humanity had ever encountered. They were tall, multilimbed, and partially bioluminescent, their bodies covered in softly glowing patterns that shifted with their emotions. Their society was ruled by matriarchs, immensely powerful females who commanded both political authority and a mysterious biological network that connected every Zalthera mind. Threxel was the most powerful of them all. "You will approach," boomed a translator drone as Elias was gently but firmly nudged forward by 2 human guards. His heart pounded as he walked across the polished obsidian floor. He could feel Threxel's gaze like a physical weight on his skin. When he stopped in front of her, she lowered her massive head slightly, studying him. Her mandibles clicked softly, and her bioluminescent patterns pulsed with a slow, curious rhythm. "So," her voice echoed through the chamber via the translator, "this is the human I am to bind my life to." Elias swallowed. "I guess so." A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. Threxel's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are smaller than I expected." "Yeah, I get that a lot," Elias muttered. To his surprise, a faint glow of amusement rippled through her patterns. A marriage no one wanted. The ceremony was short and painfully formal. Alien symbols were projected into the air. Ancient vows were spoken in 24 languages. A human official and a Zalthera priestess oversaw the binding. When it was over, Elias felt no different. Except that now, he was technically married to a being who could order entire star systems destroyed with a thought. Threxel was led to her colossal bio-organic flagship, the Verdant Throne. Elias followed, flanked by human and Zalthera guards alike. "This is insane," he whispered to himself. Inside the ship, the walls pulsed like living tissue, glowing with soft blues and greens. It felt less like a spacecraft and more like the inside of a giant, benevolent creature. Threxel dismissed the guards the moment they reached her private chamber. "You may leave us," she commanded. Elias tensed as the doors slid shut, sealing them alone together. "Well," he said awkwardly, "hi. Guess we're married." Threxel studied him for a long moment. "Do not mistake this arrangement for affection, human. This is a political necessity. Trust me, I'm not under any illusions." "Good." She turned away, gazing out a massive viewport at the stars. "Then we will not pretend." That first day, they barely spoke. Beneath the crown. Days passed aboard the Verdant Throne. Elias was given his own quarters and freedom to roam most of the ship. Threxel remained distant, occupied with endless councils and strategy meetings. But little by little, cracks began to appear in her imposing facade. One evening, Elias found her alone in a quiet observation chamber, her luminous patterns dim and flickering. "Rough day?" he asked cautiously. She glanced at him. "My entire species depends on every decision I make. That is not something you can ever truly rest from." Sounds exhausting. It is. He sat beside her, though he barely reached her waist. You know, back on Earth, I used to stress over whether my cargo shipments arrived on time. Guess that puts things in perspective. To his surprise, Threxel let out a low, rumbling sound that the translator labeled as laughter. You are strange, human. Yeah. That too. From that moment on, their conversations grew longer. Elias asked about Zalthera culture, their psychic network, their matriarchal hierarchy. Threxel asked about Earth, about human families, about what it was like to choose one's own partner. Your species mates for love? She asked one day. Sometimes, Elias replied. Sometimes for convenience. Sometimes for survival. But ideally, yeah. For love. Threxel was quiet for a long time after that. A threat from within. Just as their uneasy coexistence began to soften, danger struck. A radical faction within the Zalthera collective, the Purity Brood, declared Threxel's marriage to a human an abomination. They believed the psychic network was being tainted by Elias's presence and demanded her abdication. Worse, they launched an attack on the verdant throne. Explosions rocked the ship. Alarms blared. Bioluminescent walls darkened in shock. Elias was thrown against a bulkhead as Threxel rushed to his side, her massive form shielding him. They are trying to kill us both, she said grimly. Us? He asked. You are my consort now. Your death would weaken my authority. They fought their way through corridors filled with rogue Zalthera warriors. Elias, armed with nothing but a plasma sidearm and stubborn courage, stayed at Threxel's side. At one point, he was knocked to the ground by a blast. Threxel turned back, roaring in fury, and unleashed a psychic wave that incapacitated 3 attackers at once. Get up, she commanded, extending one powerful limb. I will not lose you. Something in her voice made his chest tighten. A choice beyond politics. They made it to the ship's core, where Threxel could interface directly with the psychic network and restore order. But doing so would require opening her mind fully, something the Purity Brood could exploit to control her. There is another way, Threxel said quietly. But it involves you. What do you need? The network will not accept a foreign consciousness, she explained. But as my bonded consort, you are now partially integrated. If you willingly connect with me, we can reinforce the network together. Elias stared at her. You're asking me to link my mind to yours? Yes. It will be dangerous. You may lose yourself. He took a breath. Funny. I was thinking the same thing when they forced me to marry you. She looked at him, those ancient eyes softer than he had ever seen them. Do you trust me, Elias Ward? He nodded. Yeah. I do. They joined hands. Light erupted around them as their minds connected. Elias felt her thoughts vast, powerful, burdened by centuries of duty. She felt his small, chaotic, filled with stubborn hope. Together, they pushed back against the Purity Brood, sealing the psychic network and reclaiming control of the collective. The rebellion collapsed in moments. Everything changed. In the aftermath, Elias collapsed, exhausted but alive. Threxel knelt beside him, cradling him gently. You saved my people, she said softly. We saved them, he corrected. From that day forward, their marriage was no longer just a treaty. It was a partnership. Threxel began to consult Elias on matters of diplomacy. He offered human perspectives that helped prevent conflicts and bridge cultural gaps. Slowly, the galaxy began to see their union not as a scandal, but as a symbol. And between them, something unexpected grew. Not the sudden, dramatic love of Holovids, but a quiet, steady bond forged through shared danger, trust, and understanding. One night, as they watched a nebula bloom outside the viewport, Threxel spoke quietly. In my culture, matriarchs do not love, she said. We rule. We endure. And now? Elias asked. And now, she said, her luminous patterns glowing warmly, I find that I want more than endurance. He smiled. They had made him wed an alien matriarch. And everything had changed.